Hello, welcome to Popcorn and Slush movie review with me, JOC. Today, we will be reviewing the movie Turning Red by Pixar and Disney. This movie was dropped on March 1st, 2022. So, it's my time to review, so we're gonna do it. Let's go. The first item that we're going to talk about is the plot and storyline. So I have some notes here. So per Google, again, the plot of the movie is a 13-year-old girl is torn between staying her mother's dutiful daughter and the changes of adolescence. And as if the changes were not enough, whether she gets overly excited, she transforms into a giant red panda. So ideally, honestly, that's the same thing that I got out of the plot from watching the movie. The only other additional things that I would probably add is it kind of like from my last review about Elemental, where it's about a relationship with a father and daughter. Well, this one is about a relationship between a daughter and a mother. Hopefully I get to find a movie for a son and a parent or something like that. But this was about a daughter and a mother. Funny, both of these movies were Asian-based movies. So I guess it's given the same type of theme, meaning in this movie where Mei Mei, she was so, like they said, dutiful daughter to where she didn't want to do anything to disrespect her mom. She didn't want to do anything to disrespect, upset, or outside of the realm that she was supposed to do. She got really good grades. She was really smart. She loved doing things with her mom and things like that. But then she hit that teenage age to where it's now like, okay, that line of I want to be free. I want to try to do stuff on my own. I want to have a voice. I want to talk back a little bit. I don't want to just continue to sit back and do everything you tell me to do just because you tell me to do it. So she was hitting that wall to where she needed a voice in that aspect. So that was really, really, really cool. Another thing, dealing with emotions. This talked about dealing with emotions again and being able to either harness those emotions or let them come out. And then with Mei Mei, her thing was if she let those emotions out, now she would turn into a panda. So now she would have to deal with the consequences of possibly being embarrassed for being a whole panda because she couldn't control her anger. Pretty much the plot of the movie is a young lady, 13 years old, middle school, 8th grader, who is trying to come into her own, trying to find her voice, but still be respectful and dutiful to her mom and trying to teeter that line. So that's what our plot, that's what our storyline is. Mei Mei had a group of friends, a group of young ladies who all were different in their own characteristics. Pretty, I guess, a little bit diverse. I have to think back to myself of when I was in the 8th grade. I don't know that. We're gonna get into it a little bit later. But that was a plot, that was a storyline. Next, what we have is the characters. So yes, let's get into these characters. So our main character is Mei Mei Lee, which is the young lady who is 13 years old. She's a single child. She's the only child in her family. Well, only child with her parents. She lives with her mom and her dad. Her mom is pretty overprotective, like you in your room minding your own business and she looking through the peephole a little bit. Too overprotective if you ask me. But the dad he's very soft-spoken, very quiet, and it seemed like dad was a really good cook because we're gonna get into animation later, but dad was throwing down in there. It's a cartoon, but it looked good. It looked like dad know what he was trying to do. Then we get into the friends of Mei Mei. So I think one of her friends' name was Myra. Hopefully I'm getting this right. One of the friends' name was Myra, which she was kind of like a tomboyish, but for her to be the most tomboyish person in the movie, she was very boy crazy, like very, very boy crazy. And that's another thing. In the 8th grade, I don't remember being that boy crazy in the 8th grade. I don't ever remember being boy crazy at all, but like finding boys attractive and things like that, like okay. But these children was like hot. I was like, ooh, that's a little concerning. But otherwise, Myra was the tomboy of the group. Then you had Lauren, she was kind of that like little, not crazy, but she was the go hard loyalist, like get people hype. And then you had Priya, who was the Indian young lady who was very calm, chill, nonchalant, but she was always for the group. And I honestly liked the friend group because they held May May down so much, and they helped her out of so many dark places, and they was kind of her motivation in the movie. It's like, it's really cool to have just a cool group of friends who always got your back, and I like that aspect of the movie. Of course, another character was the mom, who, you know, it goes into like her childhood just a little bit, but just what she struggled with and how she wanted to be so hard on her daughter because she didn't want her daughter, and she didn't want to lose the relationship she had with her child as well. So kind of like those were the main characters. Really, the main characters was just the friend group, May May, and the mom. That's pretty much what it was centered around, and everybody else was kind of like an added feature. And of course the panda, which was pretty much May May. Oh, my bad. The people in the friend group were Abby, Myra, and Priya. So Abby was that friend who I was talking about, who the go hard girl who, you know, she would all of a sudden be like, ah! And you was like, okay, girl, we get it. But she was a good friend. She was a good friend. And another thing that I liked how they depicted May May was that she was super smart, and she wasn't afraid to be smart. She wasn't afraid of the labels that people put on her and called her. And I was like, that is awesome for a 13-year-old young lady, or even a 13-year-old child, to understand that, like, you can be smart, own that. Because being smart is not something to shy away from, because ultimately, it's a good quality to have. Like, why you want to be dumb? Why you want to be someone who doesn't know anything or want to follow the crowd? Be your own individual. Be your own person. It's enough people out here being followers. So if you're smart, wave that flag in the sky and be smart, smart, smart. So I loved that May May was a smart young lady who owned every single label that she had, and she could stand on her own. I love that about her, and I love that they depicted that. They had that aspect about her to where she embraced that the so-called weirdness or so-called smart girl that she was. I love. And then the other thing with the mom that was interesting was like how hard that May May's mom put her on a pedestal, to the point to where she felt like her child could do no wrong, to where everybody else was the issue and her child was not the issue whatsoever. So that's something that we'll get into later on, but that's the only part that I'm like, parents know their children, and parents know that, you know, my child could have possibly did that, and I probably need to look into that and see, like, let me not go hard on everybody. That's the only thing I didn't like of how they depicted the mom, because it's like she just couldn't believe that her child would do anything ever wrong, and that everybody else was a bad influence on her. And I didn't understand why she was going heavy on Myra, which is the super tomboyish child, as the problem child, but the other two kids wasn't a problem. So that was interesting to me. So next up, we have automation and visuals. When I say this movie was top notch, all glamour, all amazing, like the Pixar be hitting it out the park every single time. Like, let's not get into them old cartoons that was 1D that you saw one side of the face. Like, this Pixar has been killing it. I forget the first Pixar movie that came out. Maybe I'll look it up and talk about it in the next movie. But the animation was top notch. I had to come up with a ratings in order to rate this movie. And this movie gets a 5 popcorn popping pop, 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 pop. Let's go. Rating for like really, really good animation. It was one scene in the movie where the dad was cooking and the food looked so real, and I was like, I had to ask myself, is this a cartoon or is this a real movie? Because that food looked real. Outside of that, everything else was really, really very well done. And to me, all Pixar animation is top notch, so they gonna always get a 5 out of me. But just that cooking scene just hit it out the park for me as like bomb.com. Next up, we have humor. So for me, the humor it wasn't really there for me in this movie. It was okay. Like, I didn't have no gut busting laughter or nothing like that. It was, I assumed that it would be funnier for a child or something like that, but for me, it wasn't that funny. I couldn't tell you a funny line or anything like that out of the movie. It was more so really cute, loving, adorable type movie versus funny. I guess the only funny scene to me that I kind of chuckled a little bit is when she was in a classroom and her mom was outside trying to check because her mom had thought she had a period, so she wanted to make sure she was cool at school. So mom came to the school to watch her in the classroom, and she got so angry that she turned into a panda, so she ran into the bathroom. But it was a young lady in there, so the young lady opened the door and was about to scream, but as she was a panda, she like pushed that head right back in that bathroom stall. So I thought that was funny. But other than that, the movie really wasn't that funny to me. It was cute, it was adorable, but it wasn't that funny. Next up, we have themes and messages. So this movie was filled with the overarching theme, overarching message. It started off with a young lady who was very, very dutiful to her mom, like they talked about in the plot, but very, very dutiful, very respectful, did everything. She didn't want to hang out with her friends after school because she felt that that would be disrespectful to her mom, and she had to do everything by the book, by the book, by the book. So as her coming into age and her being this panda and her embracing this panda spirit, it was kind of like, instead of it being an embarrassment, she embraced it as like, man, people are liking me, I'm loving the energy that I'm getting with being this panda, so why not be more of myself, step into more of myself. And like, because of that, she was stepping on that line of being a dutiful daughter, and she was more so stepping into having a voice, having the courage to do things and say things. And her mom, growing up how she did, she didn't understand that, and she couldn't see that because she was always a dutiful child. She was always a dutiful daughter. She gave up a lot for just to continue to be that dutiful child. And it's interesting how, like, no matter how old you get, as a parent, you always can learn something from your children, and something that a parent could have been harboring in, they see their child accelerating at it and being better at it, and then that can bring confidence to the parent. Like, wow, like my child is brave enough to do this, so I can step into my own and be able to do this. I didn't think that I could do that as a parent. So I thought that was really, really good. And another thing, I don't know how many 13-year-old young ladies or boys or whatever are able to even step out of this dutifulness, because my husband always likes to say, you put yourself in everything. Well, I'm gonna put myself in this. So for me, even for me as being a dutiful child, it's like, if you're raised to the point to where you respect your parents, you do what they say, you're not gonna like argue with them, cuss them out, or do anything like that. That dutifulness can go with you for a long, long time, to where it's like, at the age that I'm at right now, I'm okay with being a friend to my mom. I'm okay with hearing her out and like having a voice to speak and say my piece to my mom. But for the long time, I couldn't do that because I was still in a mindset of like, I have to be dutiful, I have to listen to everything, I have to be on the realm of doing everything correctly and right, and not questioning certain things. But then you have to get to an age, especially as an adult, to where you're like, no, I'm stepping into my own. So for me, it was interesting to see a 13-year-old child who was able to already step into that realm and have those questions and question those things. Even though you living in your mama house, you're not paying no bills. She still got your clothes. You still doing A, B, and C, and D, and you think you got something to say? No. So it was interesting to see that although she was 13 years old and she was pushing that line, she was able to walk into her own self. So kind of like one of the themes and the messages that was in the movie was just her stepping into her own. And then it's kind of like she went back when the mom turned into the panda, and they were doing the chant in order to open the realm so that they can separate themselves from the panda. And she went back and she saw her mom as a teenager, as a 13-year-old as well. And she picked her mom up and she told her mom it was gonna be all right. She walked her mom through every stage of her life and just helping her. And it's like, even though she's a child, she can help a whole adult. She can help her whole mom see the worthiness and the beauty in her own voice. And I thought that that was super, super dope, because as children, and as we have a mother, it's kind of like you get to a point, you get to an age to where you can be that voice for your parent. And you no longer see them as your parent, but you see them as a human being, as a person who has feelings, and as a person who you can help guide and you can be there for. So, you know, I thought that that helped me, and that was eye-opening for me to understand, like, yes, I can do more. All right, so that was it for storylines and messages. Now we have music and soundtracks. Really, the music and soundtrack of this whole thing was really just one song, and it was for the group Four Town. Don't know who the voices were, not gonna look it up, but Four Town, they had "I Never Gonna Let Goodbye," "Oh My, oh my." Pretty much that was the whole thing of the whole song, and I'm like, okay, so this must be a ode to her and her friends that helped them. Like, you know, it's always a song that you hear and it motivates you to get crunk, to get hype. My song right now is "On My Mama" by Victoria Monet. So every time I hear it, I get hype. I get hype. So this song was for May May and her friends, which was "Nobody Like You," I think is the name of the song from For You. So pretty much when I looked up the soundtrack, it was really just sounds of the whole movie, and then it was this one song. Another thing I wanted to talk about, which is pretty much going to be the theme of every single movie that I review, that's a Disney movie, a Pixar movie, or a child type movie, is age appropriateness. So the main character is a 13-year-old adolescent, pretty much. To me, this movie is a child appropriate movie because it wasn't nothing super crazy, nothing too overtly out of the mix for it to be considered a child movie. Although when I was doing some research on the movie, it talked about a lot of people were upset at it because they felt like it dealt with a lot about the period. I guess I missed that whole thing about the period and how the red panda is supposed to represent the period, and she's an adolescent and all this other type stuff. Yeah, I didn't really get that, but I felt like it was very age appropriate. I feel like it's a whole family movie that the whole family can go see and actually learn something, because it was a really good family movie. So a family sticking together to help May May and the mom kind of stay together, come together. And then also with May May's mom and her mother, they were able to come together to have some form of understanding and see where they got lost. So this movie was definitely kid friendly, definitely age appropriate. Honestly, there were no themes that went over a child's head that they couldn't understand. It was pretty much on the board, very, very good. No in-depth messages to where it's like, ooh, will kids understand that? Nah, it was pretty clear. So very age appropriate, very kid friendly. And last but not least, we're going to talk about my jazzy whys, or just things that I picked up, questions that I may have, or just observations that I made throughout the movie. So the first one I made is, did y'all see that when she turned into a panda, her hair turned red? And then when all of her aunties and her mom and her grandmother turned into a panda, their hair turned red. But I didn't fully understand why. Like, so their hair just must stay red if they continue to have the panda, and then it goes back to black or whatever when they don't have the panda anymore, or it's in their hair, like necklaces or whatever that holds the panda in place. So I thought that was really cool. Like, hey, her hair is red, so that means she has the panda in it. Like, I'm trying to get the red in my hair, but otherwise, I thought that was very interesting. Another thing was, like, at 13, when you first get your period, I don't know how many ladies watch this video, but like, do you remember the first time when you got your period and what your mom or parent did for you? My mom had a whole like basket for me with books and videos on how to take care of yourself, medicines to take and everything like that. It was kind of like a rites of passage for me. My mom was excited. She was like, oh my God. I was terrified. So I thought that the movie and how the mom became so prepared, and when she yelled at the dad like, Dad, Dad, it's happening. I thought that was so funny because when my mom was like yelling, my mom was so calm about it, like, oh, okay, she all right. My dad was stressful. He was like, oh my God, is she okay? What should we do? Oh my God, oh my God. So I thought that was a really cool part of the movie that, you know, okay, is it the period? She turned into a panda. I don't understand why the mom didn't think the panda first, especially when she knew that that's a possibility that could happen. With the whole panda thing, it was super interesting that, like, in order for her not to turn into a panda, she had to control her emotions. And that's like just in life as people, we have to control our emotions on like different situations in life where you feel like you've been looked over or you want to get angry about something. You got to check your emotions in certain settings, meaning like you got to check your emotions if you at the job and you at work and your boss is getting on your nerves. You can't cuss them out, you can't walk out or nothing like that, so you got to check your emotions. But in this aspect in the movie, it's kind of like she was trying to come into her own and keep that inner person or that person that she truly was inside. And so once she finally embraced that person, she could truly be herself and be the person that she knew she could be. So that was a good lesson. Like I thought to myself, like, who am I truly inside, and am I holding that person in, or am I making that person bright? And I feel like with this whole YouTube channel that I'm starting or whatever, I just want to show my true self and be my true self and just talk about movies, because I just love watching movies. So let's talk about it, you know? Another thing, it was super cute when she did a whole presentation on the Four Town to go to the concert, and and her mom was like, who are these people? What is this? And her dad was like, man, it's legit. Like, she really did that. I can relate to her doing presentations and still getting a no. Like, I did a whole presentation on trying to date when I was in high school, and my dad was like, that was a whole cute presentation or whatever, but yeah, no, you're not finna date. You want to date somebody? Date me. Where you want to go? We can go to the movies. We can go out. But you ain't going out with no boy. And I said, dang, I did a whole presentation for nothing. And lastly, you know, kind of like the overarching thing that I took away from this movie is like something that was said at the end of the movie, which was, who are you and what are you keeping in? So that's pretty much what I took from the movie, is just like looking at yourself in general and just saying, like, do you know who you are and what are you keeping in? What are you letting out, and what do you need to let out in order to be your true authentic self and walk around this planet, this world, and to encounter all the people that you have, just being your true authentic self. And honestly, that's what we're all trying to do, and what the red panda has shown me and what will show other people who view it is that it's okay to embrace those imperfections, those weirdness that you have, because it's always somebody that's out there that's gonna love it, number one, and you're gonna find your tribe of people that's gonna embrace you, love you, and hold you down as well. And not only that, but at the end of the day, you got your family, and your family will love you regardless of whatever it is. So let's just spread love, let's spread joy, and let's always show our overall authentic self. So thank you guys for watching. This is Popcorn and Slush movie review, where we would just review Turning Red. Who knows what the next movie will be? So stay tuned and come back next time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.